They're two happy women bringing you inspiring stories, politics, pop culture, and lifestyle hacks, all with an eye to making our communities and our country a better place to live. It's the Happy Women Podcast with your hosts, Jen Horn and Katie Gorka.
What happens deep inside the Trump White House? Well, we are going inside the doors, maybe even of the Oval Office, with our episode of Happy Women this week. I'm Jennifer Horn.
And I'm Katie Gorka.
And it is so nice to welcome back to the podcast our first returning guest, but I think he's kind of one of the founders and almost, I think, an honorary Happy Woman. Dr. Sebastian Gorka is here. We miss him on the radio, but he is inside the White House and doing great work there. Dr. G, thanks so much for being with us today.
Honorary Happy Woman. My wife does say my wife says I've got nice legs, but I'm not putting on a skirt on even for you, Jennifer.
I don't know. We don't want any weird executive orders being signed. So we'll just say you're our favorite happy man. How about that?
I like that. I will take that. I will take that.
So you are now what? I don't even know. It feels like 14 years, but I think 4 weeks into the Trump White House now. I was just having a conversation today, and I'm very curious your thoughts. As much as we were all upset in 2020, I really believe that God puts us on the path that we're supposed to be on. And I really believe this last 4 years, that break for President Trump put into perspective what needed to be attacked within our government. And literally within a few days, President Trump, Elon Musk, his entire team of people around him have identified the swamp and has taken it down. And it's just amazing to see that 4-year break, I think, has created the opportunity truly for President Trump to go down as the greatest president in history. Based on these 3 weeks, I don't see how anyone could argue with that.
Look, I tremble at the idea of correcting my former Salem colleague. We haven't quite taken down the deep state, but it's a bloody good start. You're absolutely right. It feels like we've been here for months. Every morning I have to look at my calendar and correct myself because I, say to my team, we've been here for how many weeks? And I can't believe it's been, less than a month already. It's truly, truly stunning. And to your point, I had a caller who dialed into the radio show maybe 3 months ago. And he said something to which I was about to lunge through the phone line and rip out his carotid. And then I stopped for a second and I thought, he's right. And this caller said, it's good that they, quote unquote, won the election. It's good that the Democrats had all the shenanigans in 2020. Why? Well, if we had just had a continuous second term, it wouldn't be Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. It wouldn't be Kash Patel at FBI. It wouldn't be Seb Gorka running CT in the White House. And more important than the incredible team the president has arrayed, we wouldn't have had the raid on Mar-a-Lago. We wouldn't have had the 4 years of millions of illegals let into this country. We wouldn't have 72-year-old grandmothers arrested and put in prison for praying inside Congress on January the 6th. So the 4 years, despite the damage done to the fabric of our republic, the last 4 years, to use the kids' phrase, was this giant red pilling of millions of Americans who weren't really political or may not have been MAGA. And look at the fact that the president set the historic record, the most votes for any incumbent president 4 years ago. And then what happened in November? He broke that record by almost 4 million additional votes. So yeah, it's a little bit deja vu coming back into the White House, a little bit of ecstasy melded with PTSD. But at the same time, this is a very different administration from the one I was a part of 8 years ago.
So one of the things that I've noticed is different is the fact that I think in the first administration of Trump, whether this was his decision or maybe more the people around him, but I think there was the impulse was not to challenge things that they were seeing going wrong, not to rock the boat, right? And I think it really came back and bit them. One of the things that I see, now I'm an outsider this time, right? But I'm seeing a much more decisive response. I feel like they're not willing to let things slide this time around. Are you seeing it the same way from your perspective inside?
Oh, utterly. And I'm a little bit jealous of my colleagues inside Doge. I want once they fixed USAID and shut it down, once they fixed, FEMA and DHS, I want the Doge boys in my counterterrorism directorate to sprinkle some of that magic fairy dust across the enterprise that is meant to be doing counterterrorism. To your point, look, you know the story. I've told it many times before. We were 4 days into the Trump administration in 2017, and the new National Security Council phone book, which, look, it's not the nuclear launch codes, but some of the names inside the NSC are sensitive to people who run intelligence programs and so forth. And the new phone book with the new political appointees' names had been leaked to the Washington Post. That's a classified document before the first week it expired. And I wasn't working for Mike Flynn, but he's a great patriot. He's a friend of mine. And I went to the then National Security Advisor. I said, Mike, well, you got to get a grip. You can't have this classified document leaked to the Washington Post 4 days after we're in the building before you, the National Security Advisor, had even signed off on it. And Mike said, Seb, what do you recommend? And I said, get every stinking polygrapher from the Department of Justice to the EEOB, which is the real White House building where all the worker bees are, and polygraph everyone. Lock the doors and polygraph everyone. I will be the first to volunteer until you find the person that leaked that classified document. He looked at me and he said, great idea, Seb. We can't rock the boat. Yep. 3 days later, he's out, taken down by the deep state. We have none of that now. Look at Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is launching the cases against Letitia James, against New York. Look at what we've done. Look at this image. People have to understand the imagery. They don't understand the importance of just visuals. I don't think in modern history we've ever seen a senior White House official like Tom Homan, the border czar, at the border with the brand new Secretary of Defense. Together, right? The guy who's doing Homeland Security together with the Secretary of Defense, seeing our troops, seeing our Border Patrol agents. Why? Because this is not business as usual, and we are serious.
It seemed like there was so much volleying the first time around, people wanting to kind of up their own personal image. And what's different for me, at least from an outside perspective, is that everybody is working together for the common goal. And that is to deliver on the promises that were given, the mandate that was given to President Trump so that he can deliver on the promises to the American people. I think one of the most incredible moments that I have seen, and literally I was crying watching it, was the return of the school teacher who was imprisoned in Russia. And this week, Dr. G, he comes back. President Trump is waiting for him. It's late at night. It's snowing. It's 10 o'clock. But he welcomes him into the White House. This is because of a promise that he made to this man's incredible mother at 95 years old. When President Trump said this is the retribution, it is not even the retribution. This is just answering the promises that he made. And I don't think any of us are used to seeing a politician do that. It's incredible.
Just juxtapose that. You're so right. Juxtapose the image of, the pasty former commander-in-chief on that cheap aluminum, chair on the beach in where is it? Rehoboth, right? Mm-hmm. You see Biden as America's burning down, cities are being taken over by illegals, and he goes off to the beach. Kamala Harris is too busy to come to Arlington National Cemetery on the 3rd anniversary of the murder of our servicemen in Kabul. And just to juxtapose that with that beautiful image in the snow, President Trump outside the White House waiting for this man. This man who, look, he's not somebody captured by the Taliban in the midst of some super secret operation in, the Hindu Kush or whatever. This is an individual who had some medical marijuana in his suitcase, doesn't know the laws in Russia, and gets a 14-year custodial sentence, whose mother at a rally says to President Trump, please free my son. And President Trump waits for him in the cold, in the snow.
So back to this topic of, the fact that they are very willing to rock the boat this time around. I think one of the things that's been so shocking and eye-opening and gratifying at the same time for Americans is to actually see the details of the unbelievable waste, fraud, and abuse that's going on in our government. I mean, we've all been watching these incredible numbers coming out of AID and the ridiculous things they spend money on. Some of the latest ones, I was just reading, Lee Zeldin canceled a $50 million grant to the Climate Justice Alliance, which believes that climate justice travels through a free Palestine. But here's another one that kills me. And I think it's so interesting that Trump is saying he's going to actually look into people from the previous government or even currently in government who've been profiting off of American taxpayers. I mean, shocking numbers about people who have had government jobs and now they have this unbelievable net worth. Samantha Powers, just one, the former administrator for USAID, is now worth $30 million apparently on a government salary. So here's the latest one to come out today. Deborah Rutter, the president of the Kennedy Center, was making a salary. This is for a taxpayer-funded nonprofit. She was making a salary of $1.4 million.
We're in the wrong business, guys.
As president of the Kennedy
Wow.
Center. And there was a whole slew of administrators, making anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see, does President Trump hold these people accountable? And it's sure looking like he has every intention of doing so.
And there I was thinking that the access we had to the presidential box at the Kennedy Center with the presidential White House M&Ms was the greatest perk. And lo and behold, I could have been paid $1.4 million instead. Yeah, look, we really shouldn't joke about it. This is horrific. I mean, this is part and parcel of the establishment's disdain for the American people. I don't have to tell you, Katie, when we came into government, you and I, 8 years ago, we took it very seriously. I mean, I probably wouldn't have stood up in a labor court of law, but we signed papers saying we will not be lobbyists for 5 years after we leave our presidential appointment. And for the rest of our lives, we will never work on behalf of a foreign government. Who demanded that of the presidential appointees? It wasn't, the Office of Presidential Appointments, wasn't the transition team. It was President Trump who demanded that of us. And then you have the likes of Fauci, who's getting paid almost twice what the president is paid, and then literally making tens of millions of dollars on patents. How does a government bureaucrat whose job is public health make money from drug company patents in and of itself? It's more than just greed. It is a demonstrable attitude to the American taxpayer. You don't matter. What I wish matters. And I think it just ended at 12:01 on January the 20th.
It was interesting to see that Dr. Fauci had his museum funding canceled. I'm really sad because I know all three of us were going to take a trip this summer to the Fauci Museum. So
look, I live in a skiff 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
So I don't see the news. I see the news for about 10 seconds when I get home to my wife at night. Is that true? Are you making a joke?
I wish that I was, but there was actually some money that was going towards a Fauci museum. Just FYI, people's sexiest man of the year. Dr. Fauci. But
yeah, and I wonder if they were going to put that up next to the Fairfax County's proposed COVID memorial.
Yes, I mean, these are great, really great expenditures for taxpayers. But another one that got caught up in this, and she's close to my heart because she lives in Los Angeles most of the time, and that is Maxine Waters. And it's funny when the gravy train starts to tip over and come crashing, to a screeching halt. these Democrats go on, they start screaming and they tell you to attack people like Elon Musk, and then they start singing crazy songs. I mean, it's been going on in DC. I don't know if you guys have had to see this in person, but it's crazy. But Maxine Waters was so telling yesterday. They don't even realize. I've always said that the left always tells you what they're going to do or what they're thinking. We just don't pay attention a lot of times as Republicans. But Maxine Waters says yesterday, she goes, what do they have on us? Why are they coming for us? How can you be so stupid to say that? Because clearly what I think we're all wondering is just how many members of Congress were getting kickbacks on all of this money and all of these projects. I mean, this is all part of the investigation, Seb. Keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. This email brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe right now today. It's free at salempodcastnetwork.com/Trump. That's salempodcastnetwork.com/Trump.
Yeah, well, never let it be said that that woman is the candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize. But seriously, if you haven't watched it, watch the footage of that representative of the people screaming in the face of a working man outside AID. I mean, if you really want to see that Marie Antoinette moment, watch this man whose job it is to physically secure that building being just harangued by this representative of the people who's there for one express purpose, as far as I can see, to protect the gravy train for the establishment that thinks the people's money is their money. Watch the clip, and I think it speaks volumes.
All right, so we used to have a really nice day together where you'd be home in the mornings and I'd be home in the mornings, and we would get to be working and we'd have our breakfast together and our coffee together. And now you're gone at 7 a.m. and I'm left to walk the dogs all by myself. But tell us about life inside. What's it like? First of all, where are you speaking from? This looks really beautiful and old. What room is that?
So look, the Oval Office is the Oval Office, and it's of course the most important room in the world. And it's cool to be in there. The first time I went into the Oval in the first week, it was so delightful to walk in there because the fireplace had this roaring, real fire with logs in it. No solar power, no nothing. President Trump was there, and we had a real fire in the fireplace. And yeah, it's the Oval Office, and you get chills when you go in there. But don't tell President Trump, this suite I'm in right now is, as far as I'm concerned, almost as cool as the Oval Office. It is in the massive neo-Gothic building on the other side of West Executive Boulevard, called the Executive Office Building, the Eisenhower, the EEOB, which is really the White House. The West Wing is tiny. People don't realize it's not like the TV show. I gave a friend of mine a tour of the West Wing at lunch today. We did the whole thing in about 90 seconds. The West Wing was an annex. No, I'm not joking, literally 90 seconds. It is an annex to the White House that was added temporarily and was never taken down. It's like this little appendage. The National Security Council, the National Economics Council, the worker bees of the presidency are in this beautiful, massive building next to the White House. And in it, on the second floor, is literally a museum. I mean, I feel like I walk into a museum. It's my favorite place to do work when I'm not in a SCIF, in a secure compartmented information facility. And this is the Secretary of War suite. Wow. So this is the coolest part, and it's also got the coolest name. And it's not an accident that a certain tech billionaire who's into rockets has now appropriated most of this suite. I'm in the end of it now. And the coolest thing, you want to talk about my average day? Yes, I leave very early. I come home very late. I'm with an amazing team of people running counterterrorism for the president. But as I was coming back from the West Wing, I get in the elevator to come here, and there's this little boy in the elevator with two minders. And I looked at this little boy, and I said, I recognize that camel hair coat. And I said, are you? And he said, no. He was so embarrassed. So I was in the elevator with X.
He's so
with
cute.
With Elon's son. And he said, no, don't look at me. And he was coming here to the Secretary of War Suite.
I'm telling you, as a little kid watching him this week, I think it was Monday when Elon was in with President Trump. I mean, can you imagine that kid's experience when he is going to be 40 years old going, my dad took me in to see history being made?
No, forget that. I'm pulling my dad's hat down his ears.
I know, messing with him.
Giving a live press conference, being beamed across the planet, and the president's looking at that kid. It was hilarious. I loved it.
Okay, so back to your schedule, because I need the details. I need the tea. We gotta get this stuff. So tell us what you can about what an average day is like. So you leave the house around 7. You pull into the Eisenhower building, and what is it like? A lot of meetings, a lot of time at a desk. How does it go? It's got to be a ton of action. That's all I can imagine.
Yeah, it's I get. Let me say this: I get my steps in.
Yeah,
it's a big thing, and I get my steps in. So I leave house at 7. Then I arrive here, and a member of the intelligence community gives my PDB briefing. So I get a version of the president's daily intelligence briefing with a focus to the stuff that's relevant to my portfolio, explicitly to counterterrorism. That takes about half an hour. And then the meetings begin. So either I'll have elements of the agencies come to me to talk about something specific. I had elements of the intelligence community brief me on our partners in Central Asia today and the threats emanating from that part of the world, or I'm going. So one of the most important things, I think, to recalibrate and to send the message across the 4 million people who work for the US government that, yes, we have the new commander-in-chief and things are very, very different, is for people like me. I'm a senior director. The National Security Council has a slew of senior directors who each have a portfolio. There's somebody for, South Asia. There's somebody for intelligence. I'm the counterterrorism senior director for the president. So I've spent a lot of time in the first 2 weeks going to places like the CIA, going to see Secretary Hegseth in the Pentagon to say, hey guys, I'm here. Can I tell you what the president's vision of how we do things differently after Biden is? And to just recalibrate that azimuth of national security and send a message that we're going to do things very differently. And part of that, and this is where it gets super sexy. So I am stuck in this room for a large part of the day without my phones, right? Not allowed to have my phones. I'm on, what we call high side systems. I'm looking at classified information, but then we get to do really interesting things. And this is now detailed. I can discuss this. It's been declassified. The Daily Mail did a big article on it. So we've been told by the people who hunt the bad guys that for 4 years they weren't allowed to kill them, that they were surveilling them, and the White House said, no, you can't do anything about it. Well, I wanted to change that. And so Thursday before last at 6 p.m. in the evening, I accompanied the National Security Advisor, first Green Beret, first member of Congress in that position, into the Oval Office. And we were there waiting with Marco Rubio, with Rick Grenell. And once they'd left, the National Security Advisor and myself, with a member of my team from the military, briefed the president on a place in northern Somalia that ISIS, the bad guys, had developed into this massive cave complex to plan operations against us, our servicemen in the Middle East, and our allies and partners. And we told the president that the good guys, the US government, have been surveilling a key ISIS leader in this part of the world for over a year and a half. And the president said, what do you mean? Why haven't we killed him? Because the last president wouldn't let them. So he said, kill them. And literally, he signed with his big, iconic Sharpie pen. He signed the operational order. We communicated it to the people who needed to know it. And then less than 36 hours later, Saturday morning, it was dreamlike, because the operation was meant to occur at 9:50 in Somalia, which isn't exactly around the corner. And we're in the Situation Room under the West Wing, which is the thing from all the movies where, if there's a crisis, you're in the Situation Room. And I'm there with my team. The whole walls are massive TV screens. And we're watching this thing go down in real time. We're waiting for National Security Advisor Waltz, and it's like 9:48. Somebody says, he's coming. Well, the birds are in the air. He walks into the set room 90 seconds before go time. And he sits down, and then, like in an episode of 24, but this time it's real, the fireworks begin. And it's It's like special effects, but it's not special effects. It's real. It's bad guys being neutralized by the greatest war fighters in the world. Within 3 hours, my team member, I don't know how he did this, he's just an amazing operator, managed to get the video of the successful mission declassified by the Pentagon, and the president tweets it out. It goes viral, and he says this one sentence in big caps: "If you want to kill Americans, we will find you and we will kill you." Now, the important part here is that that was done after 4 years of inactivity, and it was executed upon by the president and the most amazing warfighting team in the world within 32 hours, which tells you what is possible if you care about the safety of our nation. And that's President Trump.
It's such an amazing story. Okay, so let's take the sort of longer view on the counterterrorism problem, because if you remember, 9/11 happened because of failures within the United States, failures of local police to communicate with FBI offices to communicate with each other. And that then triggered a whole series of changes to our national security apparatus. It led to the creation of the Department of Homeland Security. We still have to ask, is that actually functional? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? But the other thing is, as with all things government, it just led to an explosion of bureaucracy. We have 17 different intelligence agencies. Do you think Trump will bring the DOJ effort to American intelligence and to the counterterrorism effort? And do you even think that's what we need to be doing?
Oh, without a doubt. I think that's a leading question, Counsel. Since you asked that question, I have actually quoted you to my incredible counterterrorism team yesterday. And I said, as my wife, former presidential appointee, the Department of Homeland Security, asked me at the weekend, have we answered the 9/11 question? And there's a reason in my office, I have the same photograph on my wall that I had behind me in my Salem studio for the last 6 years. And it is the Twin Towers. It is the Twin Towers that don't exist anymore. And I asked my team one thing, and we're going to drive this home. In every meeting we take, every classified directive we send down, are we able to prevent the next 9/11? Are we safer? Do those 17 intelligence agencies, do the things we have put in place since 9/11 make us safer or not? And to your question of whether we're going to dogify the universe of national security, look, all I can tell you is Pete Hegseth ain't a business as usual guy. Read his book, The War on the Warriors, and you'll see how serious this man is. Look at Tulsi Gabbard. Look at Kash Patel. Look at Joe Kent, who is the nominee to be the head of the National Counterterrorism Center. None of these people are A, members of the establishment, and B, none of them are interested in business as usual. And let me tell you, one of the most dangerous things you can do in U.S. government, and I saw this in the first Trump administration, I saw 3-star generals, fall by the wayside when they did this. When the president would ask a question, so why are we doing that? And they would answer, because we've been doing it like that for the last 30 years, Mr. President. You want to get cashiered out of the army? You want to get fired as a SES or a GS, whatever? Saying, because that's how we've always done it, is not the right answer. And none of those people I've just listed are interested in business as usual. And look, well, how many days has Pam Bondi been in office? Like less than a week. And she's already moving at the speed of, hypersonics. Why? Because we got business to do. And I think that will be reflected by everyone in the Trump administration.
Let's talk about priorities in our final few moments, Dr. G, because it's got to be.
Oh, can I say something?
Yeah.
This is so cool. So every week I host an interagency meeting on the secure side on just terrorism, and I'm the chair of it in the threat environment. The agency and the individual will remain nameless, but through the secure video teleconference today, as I was being briefed, one of the briefers says, and as you asked last week, Dr. G, I've made it. the name, the
They
brand
love
has
it.
penetrated the U.S. intelligence community. So I think we've succeeded.
I think that's all you need. I mean, that you can go a happy man now. That's pretty cool. I love it. All right. So priority wise, because obviously with an open border, the threat to the homeland has got to be greater because Joe Biden was asleep at the switch and they were facilitating bad guys to come into the country. So when you sit down every day and you think, okay, here's what my priorities are. I know there's a lot of hot spots around the globe. I know President Trump has asked Michael Waltz and others to work on Russia and Ukraine. Obviously, we have the threat of Iran and the Middle East. All of that going on. What do you see as priorities now moving forward for, let's say, the next year? What are you focusing on most? I mean, obviously keeping us safe, but what's on the list for you?
So number one, as you rightly identified, we have to identify and locate all the people who want to do harm to America, who were led into this country in the last 4 years by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. That's why we are blessed to have Tom Homan on point, to have Governor Noem, to have Stephen Miller. These are serious individuals. I mean, I can't tell you, one of Stephen's deputies is like, at 2 a.m., he'll get a call from Miller saying, so where is that plane to Venezuela? Have you deported those people? We don't get a lot of sleep in this administration. And the number one thing is getting people who shouldn't be here out of the country and to get the tier 1 threats onto Guantanamo Bay. When I heard that, I thought, bloody genius. That's incredible. Get the tier 1 threats to Guantanamo Bay and get them out of this country. So number one, the consequences of the last 4 years. Because if you're a bad guy, if you're Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, Al-Nusra, and you know there's no border, you're going to exploit that mercilessly. Secondly, I can't go into details, but with regards to what has happened to our servicemen and women and those who have been killed in the last 4 years, we need justice. And justice will be delivered by President Trump and our war fighters for the families of those who were killed and who were maimed by jihadists in the last 4 years. Beyond that, I think it's obvious. It's Syria. It's making sure that, Syria never is used as a platform for mass casualty attacks on U.S. soil, and to make sure that Iran can't exploit that piece of territory as it has under the last 4 years. So, just watch the video of President Trump a few days ago talking about Iran. Iran is very much front and center. And then the last thing is that I have a whiteboard. Some of it's classified, but I have a whiteboard in my office. And at the top of the whiteboard is hostages, that every hostage be released. And this is a message, if you're watching, my dear friends from Israel, the parents of dual nationals in the IDF, American citizens as well. We are not talking about purely those who are being held in those horrific Holocaust-like conditions, but we also demand the return of the bodies of those who were killed in that awful event of October the 7th and afterwards. So top of the list is U.S. hostages, live, or their bodies returned to their families.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, thank you for coming on and giving us this inside scoop on what's happening in President Trump's...
Who are you again?
I'm glad we can bring you two back together again after all this time.
Yeah, I'm the one who's going to be making your dinner tonight, so tread carefully.
No, I'm not being silly. It's like, I can't express to you enough. I wouldn't be in this. I told somebody yesterday, I wouldn't be in this job if 24 years ago you hadn't told me to call a certain TV studio as we were watching the impact of the second plane into the Twin Towers. So I'm senior director of counterterrorism because of you, my wife, Katie Gorka. That's clear. And secondly, I wouldn't be here today if you hadn't said I can do this, right? I mean, because from the financial burden it means to us, to the fact that we barely see each other anymore. I love you and thank you for supporting me.
Of course. Thanks for keeping us safe. That's what matters.
Yeah. You guys are the sweetest. You both are just such great patriots, and truly your service to the country, both of you. It's really something that I respect so much, and I know so many people do. So thank you, Katie, for sharing Dr. G. And Dr. G, thank you so much for keeping us safe and for doing the good work and President Trump couldn't have anybody better by his side in this process. So thanks so much. I hope you'll come back and share some more of the good stuff. We want the gossip next time. So take pictures, photographs.
I'm just waiting. I just want Mr. Musk to like walk through behind me and photobomb us next time.
I'm
going to
sure
try
it'll
and
happen.
interview him. Or X. I'd like his son to like jump up and say, "Hey, remember me?"
I think that's the biggest celebrity sighting ever. That little boy is too cute. So Dr. G, thanks so much. Make sure you follow him at Seb Gorka, because that's where you get all of the stuff he's working on, all of the inside stuff as well that he can share. So at Seb Gorka, sebgorka.com always. And hopefully we can bring him back again on Happy Women. Don't forget to share us with your friends. Those 5-star reviews mean a lot. Share the podcast. Connect with us on YouTube, all the platforms, SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Happy Women. And get Katie's book. Have you not gotten it yet? What are you waiting for? It's called Next Gen Marxism. And you can also search her out on Facebook. Just look for Catherine Gorka. On Twitter, Gorka Katie. Always connect on the website, katiegorka.org. You can find me online too. I'm floating around on social media, Jennifer Horn Radio on Instagram and Facebook, and at Jennifer Horn on Twitter, or X, sorry, Elon, and on Truth Social. Thanks so much for joining us. It's another episode of the Happy Women Podcast.